Is this book any good for you to get? Now, I'm not looking at it from the angles that other YouTube channels have looked at it from. I'm looking at it from the perspective of you as the GM. Is this book worth it? The short answer is yes, but why? Hello and welcome to this week's episode of How to Be a Great GM. My name is Guy and we're looking at Fizban's Treasury of Dragons. Although why the hell they included Fizban, I honestly have no idea. He doesn't add anything of value to the book in my personal opinion. I don't know the D&D world settings and the D&D lore, so I don't give a fig about Fizban. All I wanted was the contents within this book. So when I got it yesterday, I started to read through it, to look at it to see what was of value. There have been other YouTube channels out there who've done very comprehensive and amusing reviews on the contents of that book. That's not what I'm looking at today. Today I'm looking at a certain chapter. If you get this book for this single chapter within it. Chapter 3. Now, Chapter 3 is once they've got over all of the rubbish about creating new character classes and playable races and all that kind of nonsense that they put in the front of the book for the players, they finally get to the point that we actually care about as game masters, which is the GM support. I have looked at a lot of these settings or expansion books or whatever you want to call them. Supplement books, I guess. I have looked at a lot of them that have come out over the years, and this is one of the first ones that gets me really excited. And the reason for it is the information and the support that they are giving you as a game master is phenomenal. It's really solid, and the way that they do it kind of makes sense. There are some layout issues that I don't particularly like, but generally speaking, there's a lot of information in here. So what is in there? What is in here? Well, the best part about Chapter 3, as far as I'm concerned, is that it tells you, or it helps you, to design better dragons. And it starts off by giving you goals. Now, you know goals on this channel are very important because they form part of our OGAS. And that's what this book does, is it gives you, in a masked way, the OGAS of the different types of dragons. And I really appreciate that because it takes you through the OGAS of different dragons at different ages as well, which I thought was quite useful. Now, it's not like we haven't seen this before, but when it's compiled all into a singular space and you decide that you want to have a dragon in your campaign, this really helps. So, for example, they list here the goal of a young dragon. This is generic, but there are some optional goals here. To sabotage the efforts of other young dragons to establish lairs in the local area. To secure the allegiance of loyal and powerful minions. So they're giving you a lot of these goals, which you can then apply to your own dragon creation. So that's the very first part that I like, is that they give you a lot of goals. Each age of the dragon, as you know, Dungeons & Dragons likes to break their dragons into different ages. Each age has its own set of goals, which I particularly like. Now, we then move forward on that, and then we start to look at the death of dragons, and they've got some interesting concepts about dragon echoes and things like that. That's not really what gets me excited. We move past that. We're still in Chapter 3, and suddenly we start to get to the section that they talk about in terms of bigger campaigns involving dragons. And that's really what I wanted to talk to you about in today's video. Like I said, they've got lots of hooks and adventure ideas for dragons, but primarily we're looking at the OGAS, and the OGAS comes in the form, very specifically, of the things. What was I talking about? I've got lost by paging through the pretty book. The campaigns. Now, there is only one little paragraph entry on the events, but I wanted to go through them with you today to show you just how powerful those three little entries are. There's a lot more to this book, which I really like, and if you really want me to talk more about them and what I really like about them, leave your comments down below and we'll have a look and we'll have a see, particularly about pertaining to GM stuff. There's some fun stuff in there about horde items that gain power over time being dragons. Anyway, that's all there. Now, so if you want me to do that, let me know by hitting that that like button or that subscribe button. Either way, if I can see that this video is very popular with you because it's something that you would like me to do or do on different box sets and stuff, that's great as well. Then I know that information and I can start to develop on and around that. I would also be remiss if I did not mention today's sponsor. Now, today's sponsor is worldanvil.com. World Anvil, of course, is that giant world aggregator, saver of character sheets, saver of your campaign creation material. It is a giant repository, and they've just added a new feature, which is really exciting, which is their discussion boards, which allows you and your players to have these discussion boards that can track discussions and things, keep track of information that you're giving out to your players, as well as link to your entire world lore, so you can give out information to the players in a very controlled and searchable manner, which is what I particularly like. It is, of course, also coming up to the end of the year, and so they are running some great specials on subscriptions that you can get for yourself or for fellow GMs and players. So check them out, worldanvil.com, sponsoring today's video. Thank you very much for that. So when we then look at some of the campaign options that Fizban's Treasure of Dragons offers to us, the one that jumped out immediately to me was the rise of a leader or a new era. And they describe this in the book as, what if a dragon moved into a new territory? Now, there's that critical sentence, what if a dragon moved into this new territory? We've got the OGAS primarily from the first part of the book, the goals of the dragon. So randomly, I'm just going to choose a goal here, and I don't know why I closed the book. So a random goal here of this dragon who has moved into this new territory is, let's say here, to transform a region into an environment suitable for the dragon's preferred sort of lair. Look at that power. What if a dragon moved into a new area and its goal was to transform that area into a new environment? How exciting is that? To me, that's what this book is really steeped in and really helps us do that, is to have this what if moment. We have a whole campaign here, folks. It's brilliant. It's amazing. We're going to have the PCs encountering what used to be an idyllic valley is now a swamp if it's a black dragon that's moved in, or if it's a green dragon, the forests suddenly start to overtake and become violent towards the plains, or centaurs are dislocated from their plains because the plains are sinking or becoming rocky and the grass is withering and dying, or the dragon has hired the PCs to go and destroy this dryad who's been responsible for a grove, or druids are hiring the PCs to try and investigate why the land is dying unnaturally. And then, of course, the dragon is going to start to exert their power over the territories that they have already corrupted, and so they're going to start taking prisoners, they're going to start taking minions, they're going to start doing this, they're going to start doing that. It's a whole campaign just from 2 entries in that book. And what I like about the rest of the book is that there's stuff in there that will support you and help you to then create a more interesting dragon, as well as to use that OGAS, to use that to drive these very strong narratives. I think it's a lot of fun. So for me, that is something that definitely is of value and definitely of help. Another option that they came up with, which is discovery, expansion, and invention. Now, again, I hear you saying, but we know all of these different kind of sort of stories. We know about discovery. It's one of the 4 adventure types, isn't it? Well, what happens if, and we turn it on its head now, what happens if the players, and this is suggested in the book, it is discovered that dragon's blood has some amazing property. And what I really like is, again, in the rest of the book, you can find out dragon's blood. There's even a monster that's based off of dragon's blood, which is quite fun as well. But take the premise that the villagers, the inhabitants of this area, discover that dragon's blood has phenomenal qualities, healing properties, making you stronger. Think of anything that you can think of with regards to dragon's blood. Now, you go, well, that's not particularly unique. No, it isn't, except for the fact that dragons are now going to be hunted en masse. And it might start with a wizard hiring the PCs to go and get some dragon's blood. The PCs go out, they slay a young wormling or a smaller dragon that's more concomitant with their level of experience, and they bring the blood back to the mage, who then discovers this amazing curative property. Flash forward a few adventures, the PCs are doing something else, and suddenly there is, when they return, a market filled with dragon hunting ballista, all kinds of nets, dragon charms, dragon armor that will protect you from dragon's breath weapons, etc., etc. Except that unlike maybe more traditional stories, these hunters are succeeding. And there's no reason to think why they shouldn't. After all, PCs go into a forest and they hunt a stag. A huntsman lives in the forest and hunts stag every single day and succeeds in doing it, even though that huntsman would have to hit the stag about 20,000 times with a number of arrows to drop that stag. We're not even going to go into that, but that's a D&D problem. We're looking more at the concept of, well, what if the dragons do start to get wiped out, and get wiped out on a big scale, if you'll pardon the pun. And what happens when the PCs come across goblin tribes who go, no, we don't want to fight you. We're not going to fight you. No, we're dragon hunters, mate. We specialise in going into all the caves that you big Yumis can't get into, and we flush them out for you. It's a goblin service. And the ogres come along. Oh yeah, we'll haul your dragon for you. From wherever you kill it, we'll get it to the village for processing. No questions asked as to how it died. Probably natural causes. Wink, wink. It suddenly changes your entire game, and you have this whole world now hunting dragons, and people styling themselves as dragon hunters. It's not really a hugely new concept. If you remember the film from the 1990s, Dragonheart, with Sean Connery doing the voice of Draco, you're going to go, well, that was the last dragon, theoretically, and then they realized they could make money off of the sequels, and there were more dragons found. But you know what? That's not important. The players then have this wonderful campaign where there is all this dragon hunting going on. The dragons might now band together and start hiring their own armies, starting to use their own hordes to try and stop this, or to quell this, or to assassinate the mage who found out the cure, or it's entirely up to you. But it's so exciting just to think about this. So I'm guessing what I'm saying is Fizban's Treasury of Dragons is definitely something that when I started reading through it, the first 2 chapters are a waste of life as far as I'm concerned. They're playable races and some class upgrades and stuff. Those are uninspired in my opinion. And when you look at it's the new Dragonborn races, they're so overpowered, it's not even funny, that you go, well, yes, of course, it's creep and that's going to happen. So I always ignore that stuff anyway. If I was going to create a dragon setting, I certainly would have what I like to call my kits, which refers back to a 2nd edition kind of thing that they had. I did it for Ghosts of Saltmarsh expansion as well, where instead of having player characters having to become captains and bosuns and carpenters, players didn't want to create those kind of characters. I allowed them to take that mantle on as an overlay over their class, so regardless of their class, they could then participate. I would do the same for Fizban's Treasury of Dragons in terms of the Dragon Hunter class, where they would get benefits to hunting dragons, but at the same time they would get negatives to hunting other creatures because their focus and training is on hunting these big things rather than these little things. Nonetheless, that's a deviation that I shouldn't have gone down. So there are a lot of other options. I think there's about 9 or 10 different campaign options, but because each of the dragons have their own different types of goals, and then they explore even more options in terms of adventure hooks for each of the different dragon types, it's really cool on that one. And they do reintroduce, of course, some of the old original dragons that some of us remember from 2nd edition and 3.5, the gem dragons particularly. I was always quite fond of those, as it did give the Underdark some things. They left out a whole bunch of dragons, which I expected them to include, which was kind of sad. I do feel that they spent a lot of time on the dragons that we already know about. They could have spent more time. Anyway, that's beside the point. Just getting this book for chapter 3 and chapter 4, which deals with dragon lairs and things, I think is well worth it in terms of developing you and helping you to run a game where dragons form not necessarily the central focus. They don't have to form the central focus, but I think it's a good idea for them for you anyway, to add to your research so that your dragons can be more interesting. I know certainly there are a lot of things that I will take out from this book. So I think this book is well worth getting. Personally, that's just my opinion, simply because of what it inspires us to do. And you might go, well, I'm not prepared to spend the money just for chapter 3 and chapter 4. You don't have to. This is really a shorthand, something to kind of kickstart your imagination, if you like, when it comes to designing dragons within Dungeons and Dragons. So those are my thoughts on Fizban's Treasury of Dragons. What did you think about it? Have you got it? Did you go, nah, I don't need it? Let me know in the comments down below. Share with us, give us your thoughts. And something that you may or may not have known, by the way, is that all of the videos for the last sort of few months or so have transcriptions, the GM notes, if you like. Those are available on our website from www.greatgamemaster.com, where you can pick up those notes, download them, find the video, and each one has got notes attached to it. And of course, if you want to support the channel, you can find the book on our Amazon store and grab a copy for yourself. Yeah, definitely one that I'm not unhappy having purchased. I'm quite excited about it, especially because I run campaigns where I like to have lots of dragons in my games. Anyway, until next time, a massive thank you to all of you for watching all the way through to the end. And of course to my wonderful, wonderful Patreons who get all kinds of benefits at the end of each month. And so a big thank you to them, and to World Anvil for sponsoring today's video. Until next time, I wish you and yours the happiest of gaming. Hello and welcome to this...